Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to the Deal Scout. This show, we're going to talk about deals and we're going to talk about systematic sales and maybe an approach that you might not have been considering and how to get in the game. So, with that, let's bring on Mr. Ed to have a conversation with us and learn more. So, Ed, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Josh. Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm freaking awesome, man. Now, you are up in Connecticut,
Yeah.
and what do you do in Connecticut?
So we run Clark Street Capital, and I'm the president, Ed Mathews, and the whole idea here, the whole idea is we buy crappy apartment buildings from landlords who aren't very good at their jobs, and we make them clean and safe, and then we make them beautiful, so that people are proud to live there and live there a long time, which is good business for us, and I get to sleep well at night. So that's what we do.
Yeah, super awesome. When you're buying these apartment buildings, like where are you guys looking geographically? Where do you buy?
So we buy in Connecticut, actually, and we've got a pretty well-defined market. I mean, it changes a little bit here and there, but uh, we've basically identified 1,208 properties that someday we'd like to own in the state of Connecticut, and we are relentless in terms of getting in front of and staying in front of the people that own the relationships to those buildings, whether it's brokers, wholesalers, or the building owners themselves, so that when the time comes to sell, we're an obvious first phone call.
Wow, super cool. Now, before we hit record, we were in the green room and we were chatting and you were like, I said, what do salespeople, what do deal makers need to hear? And you said like consistency
Yeah.
is so vital. Like share with the audience what you and I were talking about.
Yeah. So I work with a whole bunch of kind of new and aspiring investors and some experienced ones. And invariably, when we talk about outbound marketing, so do the front end first, right? Outbound marketing, the story I told you was the one that I hear very consistently, which is I tried direct mail and it didn't work. And my first question is, okay, well, walk me through that. How many did you send? Well, I sent 4,000. Okay. How many times did you send them? Once, and it didn't work. So I didn't do it again. Okay. That's your problem, because we live here at Clark Street by the law of seven touches. Right. And so what that means is that I need to, if I'm trying to meet Josh, because he's a heavy broker that has relationships with a bunch of building owners that I'd like to meet, the way that I do that is we use email, we use text messages, we use speaking engagements, we use webinars, we use direct mail, we use invites to special events, we use congratulations cards when they publicize a good deal. We send them baby clothes when we find out on Facebook that they or their spouse had a baby. We are touching them all the time, and the key is to add value, right? It's not, hey, can you introduce me to this guy? Because that's what's in it for me. It's, hey, how can I serve you? How can I make your life a little easier, a little better? I found this article, I read this book and I thought of you immediately, and here it is. Hey, I wrote this article and I thought it might make sense for you and maybe some of your clients. Hey, I recorded this video. Hey, I'm going to this event. Would you like? And I've got a plus one. Would you like to go with me? Whatever it takes to. I've even I fully believe in giving to charity, but sometimes I'm a little strategic with it. I've actually volunteered and for charities, knowing that the person I want to meet is going to be at that event. Whatever it takes to touch them and add value on a very regular basis, at least 7 times. And in most cases, until you tell me to go away. And even then I just dial it back.
Where did you gather this level of relentless approach for deals? Like first, how many deals have you guys done? Give an idea of what you guys have accomplished.
110, somewhere in there. I mean, we've done a bunch of deals, maybe more. I actually don't count, but it's probably in the low hundreds if I had to guess. Yeah. Where I learned this was a couple different places, but over the span of my previous career in corporate Silicon Valley technology, sales and marketing type roles over about a 24-year period, I had a handful of really smart, really accomplished sales and marketing executives that taught me how to do it right. And so I've taken what I learned in working for those companies and have translated it basically to our real estate business.
Yeah, super cool. There has to be a level of confidence and mission when approaching someone 7 times or plus or something like that, because otherwise you're going to be like that story you shared. I sent a direct mail, which is no, like there's no risk reward, like it's like, here's a mail, good luck, right? Hopefully something comes back. But you're going to events, you're volunteering, you're surrounding yourself. Where do you gather that confidence after 5 tries, after 6 tries? Because it's the law of 7. How do you keep that confidence going?
So part of it is I know the system works. So, persevering is not as hard when I've already done it, many, many, many dozens of times effectively. And it's way more than that. The other part of it is that I actually legitimately believe I can help them. So it's not a matter of, I come from I hate this term because it's overused, but I do come from a place of abundance, right? I'm here to serve them. And I know that when I serve them well and serve them enough, we will become friends, right? Like actual friends, like, hey, let's go out to dinner. Our kids know each other, friends, right? And from there, we grow in trust. And at some point, I earn the right to do business with them. And sometimes I don't, we just stay friends, and that's okay too. But that's part of it, is that I fundamentally enter into these relationships looking to help and solve problems for them.
Earning the right to do business with them by developing a relationship and serving them. You said something that really like made me go, I wonder what he means behind this. You said, I really hate saying this thing of abundance mindset. Like you're like, oh, Is it because people overplay it too much? Is it because there's a false teaching? Like,
I don't think it's a false teaching. Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think it's a false teaching. I think it's used a lot, and in a lot of cases, it's used self-aggrandizement, and it's not. It's legitimately like, when somebody gets a deal that I didn't get, I'm legitimately happy for them because it's a big world out there, and that property 5 years from now will be for sale again, and I'll buy it then. It's okay. Right. And I hope they make a ton of money, and I hope they make a ton of improvements, because it's going to it'll leave me less things to do when I buy it, which is great.
See, that's a cool way of thinking things. Do you parlay that thought into other areas of your life, and how?
I try to be of service in everything I do. It was one of the initial pieces of advice that I got from more than one person, but for some reason it resonates in my ear. Jimmy Iovine, who, the record producer, one of the things that, he was nobody when he started working with, Dr. Dre and all those other people. And, one of the things that he gets asked a lot is, how the heck did you get into that room? And his simple answer was, I was of service. I helped them. And, I've had mentors, I've had, both personal and professional mentors who've given me nearly the same advice many times over my career. And it's, I think if you're listening to this program and the takeaway, at least one of the takeaways should be that people don't care about your deal until they understand how much you care about their situation. Right.
Yeah.
And, even as a young salesman, I vividly remember this. His name was Ed May. And he's a great guy and a great executive. And I was sitting there with one of my mentors, Pete Black. We were in Florida, and it was the end of the quarter. It was about this time of year. And I was pushing him hard because I needed the deal that was on the table.
Yeah.
And I kept pushing and asking questions. And, I'm more of an interrogator than hey, I need this kind of guy. But, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Right. And he finally turned to me and goes, Ed, I don't give a crap about your deal. I'm going to do what I've got to do here. And then Pete looked at me and went, calm down. And, and that stuck with me. That happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And, but it drove home for me that, when I'm on Facebook or YouTube or standing in front of a crowd or helping someone with, a situation, whether it's real estate or marketing, or we're on a softball field, right?
Yeah.
I think my role in life is to serve and to help. And because I know deep down inside, and it's how I've succeeded almost every time, is when I help enough, it's the old Zig Ziglar thing. When I help enough people get where they want to go, they in turn almost always help me get where I want to go. Almost always.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way I live my life.
Can you say it in Zig Ziglar's accent?
No, I cannot.
Yeah. Oh, I grew up
I could, but it won't sound like him.
Yeah, I grew up with he used to call it Automobile University, like with his Texas accent, and I would flip over the cassette. Yeah, right. It's so powerful. What about the times? All right, so this happened to me a few times, right? I went all in on a relationship and served and helped and poured in, and I got burnt hundreds of grand, like thousands, lots of money, and it hurt. And I go walk away going, like that sucked. Yeah. Screw that person, right?
Right.
How do you walk away from something like that, a failure, and still have an abundance and giving mindset?
I don't believe in failure. I don't believe in mistakes. I believe in the fact that, hell, Josh, I screw up 5 times a day at least, right? And my hope is I can fix 1 or 2 of them by the end of the day, right? And so, but the thing is that I learn from, I get smarter. And, the culture here with our team here, I don't care about mistakes. I care that you learn from them. That's it. Period. End of story. Don't make them twice, because I'm going to be pissed the second time. But the fact is that, if you learn, it's like the Thomas Edison thing. He spent 2,000 ways to not make a light bulb, right? And until he did. And, part of that, and to kind of finish off the question you asked a couple of times ago, I gamify everything too, right? So if I know that it takes me 10 phone calls, among other things, but 10 phone calls to get somebody to actually return my call, then the no, or the dial tone, or the voicemail is just 1 step closer to actually getting in front of that human being. And that's fine. To answer your question about getting screwed, part of it is such as life. I mean, I'm Irish, right? So, and it's like the old, what's the term, Irish Alzheimer, right? You forget everything except the grudges. And but the fact is that I chalk it up to a lesson. I try to get perspective out of it. I try, after I'm angry and emotional and all that stuff, I try really hard to kind of gain perspective and figure out, okay, first off, how can I never do that again? Right.
Yeah.
And
that hurt. And don't do that again.
Oh yeah. And I've had those relationships. I've had one where I've lost 6 figures on a relationship I thought was pretty solid. And it turns out I was the only solid one in the relationship. But what are you gonna do? That, tells me that I need to vet the people that I let into my life a little more than I was, right? So at 30 or 29 or 30, it was a lot easier to get me on the phone and get me to sit down and spend time and all that with you. Now I'm 54, and it's, I'm still a cheap date. I'll meet with just about anybody for a cup of coffee, but I'll even buy the coffee, but I'm pretty careful about the next step. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Let me ask this question on that 6-figure failed relationship. Been there.
Yeah.
Sucks. Right.
Yeah,
but when that happens and then you see that person again, how do you move forward in a positive way? Because I'll tell you, the energy that happens from these burnt deals, sometimes for me, it gets in the way of new creation and new opportunities. So I have to work really hard on releasing, on forgiving, on moving forward. How do you do it?
I didn't. With that one in particular, I was angry for a year. And I don't know that I ever saw that partner again, like directly, other than like online or something like that. But I gave him rent-free space in my head for a year. And I finally, through time, and a little perspective and a whole bunch of beating myself up and probably a couple of beers. I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm done giving this guy energy. I'm done. I'm time to move on. Let's go. And it was, a clean break at that point. Now, having gone through that and gone through not as severe, but similar situations where somebody lets you down, I get to that place of, I'm not going to let you live rent free in my head, like very, very quickly. Like, okay, let's feel this for 15, 20 minutes. Okay. Now it's time to move on. Let's go. Yeah. And that's it. Right. And I fundamentally believe that if I'm on a path, I am relentless. And so even if I screw up and let somebody in the house that really shouldn't be in the house, as long as we get them out in a timely fashion, I'm staying on the track and nothing's going to stop me.
So cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Cause we can talk about deals all day long. A year with that crap going on in your head, that affects business, that affects relationships, that affects new partnerships, new joint ventures, marriages, kids stuff. That negativity in the brain and the heart will totally just constantly tweak the business.
You up. It eats you up. I was if my wife was here, she would tell you I was no fun for that year. None, zero.
This guy sucked for a full year.
Who did I marry? What? Yeah, no, it was awful.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you for recognizing that and moving forward. And we've got to talk about these things because a deal maker is based on their story, their experience, what they're doing, what they're moving forward. And I find that if you don't do these things as a deal maker, you're going to keep on screwing up the future deals, the future opportunity. You're going to self-sabotage it.
Yep. 100%.
What was the hardest lesson you learned as a deal maker, right? You've been in Silicon Valley, tech startups, all sorts of things. You were at the dinner with Pete and Ed, and they're like, shut your mouth, stop. Well, if you could look at your whole experience and you go, you know what, Josh, the greatest thing that I learned in my deal making journey is this.
So I really enjoy playing poker. And I know that when I don't care if I win or lose that pot, I'm really effective. Like I'm really hard to beat because I just don't care. There's no tells. It's just, and hopefully I've got a hand, but sometimes I don't. And I found that in marketing, in terms of creating awareness for our company, and ultimately in terms of meeting people, not everyone's going to be a fit, right? And so I'm going to hear no. And, again, I'll go back to Pete Black. Pete Black also told me, yes is the best answer, but no is the second best answer. Yes. Maybe is death, right? Yeah. I'm cool with no. If we're not a fit, that's fine. It's the maybe, and I continue to spend time with you, and you string me along. Man up, tell me no. It's okay. I won't take it personal. You're not saying no to me. You're saying no to my offer, and that's because then the next conversation is, well, how can I improve? Like, what can I do to get better? I'm sales hats off, guys. I just want to know, the criteria you're using to evaluate me versus another deal that you're going to do. Why them and what can I do differently next time? And, occasionally people are responsive to that. And a lot of times they're like, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. And that's fine. But it never hurts to ask. So I think that's a big piece of it is it's a numbers game, and I'm going to be a fit. I'm going to be a fit with some people and not with others. And it's just human beings. That's the way it is.
You're really having fun with this business, aren't you?
I am having a blast, man. This is most fun I've ever had with clothes on.
Yeah, keep your clothes on, Ed. Please. Yeah. It's not that kind of show.
I love it. I think we're doing a lot of good, right? And it, from a family perspective, it's setting our family up, my family up to never have to worry about a lot of things going forward. And if it keeps going the way it's going, my kids and grandkids won't have to either. And that's awesome. But the other part of it is, man, I just really enjoy when I love surpassing somebody's expectations, whether that's an investor who's working with us, or it's it's a resident, right? One of the most gratifying things is a teeny tiny thing in my world, but in my brain, it's become really big. And that is, when I told you that we buy crappy apartment buildings from landlords who basically suck at their jobs, that's a broken relationship between the property owner and the resident. And, when I try to do this myself as much as possible, but I knock on every door when we buy a property, and I introduce myself. And, I've got colleagues that are like, what are you doing? Why would you ever let them know that you exist? And my answer is, because they're my customers, and I need them to continue to be satisfied, and better still, happy and proud of the home that we're providing, so that they stay a really long time. Because when they stay, that is a lease up I don't have to pay for. That is a turnover I really don't have to pay for. We fix stuff, but I'm going in and, brand new kitchens, brand new bathrooms, brand new flooring. It costs a lot of money to do it. And, if I get a really cool couple who live there for 4 years, and then on the 5th year, they go buy a house, if I, deferring that $15,000 or $20,000 expense for that property is huge. And it makes us a lot more profitable, which makes our investors a lot happier, and, in turn makes me happy. So yeah, I am having fun.
Super cool. You spoke before about sourcing deals. Now, I know you're relentless on marketing and direct mail and knocking on doors and volunteering, and like you're aggressive, right? You're going for it because you got a mission, right? You're thinking of your grandkids. You got a 100-year plan, and you're thinking about you're thinking about your grandkids.
Yep, basically.
When it comes to the sourcing of deals, what's one thing that you guys have like stumbled upon that you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known this 10 years ago?
I think so. Wow, that's a really good question, because there's a lot of ways to answer that. In terms of the most successful ways that we get deals done is when we solve a problem, right? And it's something that I kind of move in and out of, and I don't know why I do it, but when I'm working with either a broker or a direct seller, I'm trying really hard. One of the initial questions I ask is, hey, why are you selling? Right. And I get some BS answer, because they're selling for a reason, right? If this was an ATM machine, they'd never sell it. So something's wrong. And it's either something's wrong in their life or something's wrong in that business. And I'm not trying to get into their business, but I am trying to understand, okay, every property has a curveball, and I'm trying to figure out how big a curveball this is going to be. And, so I'm trying to understand, what's the problem we're trying to solve here? Is it a pain in the neck tenant? Is it the fact that you are out of cash and you can't support the building anymore? Is it, you're retiring and you just want to, you want to go hit golf balls for a living? And so if I can get to that point, I can create a model that addresses that issue and is good for us too, right? Like, it's the fundamental foundation of seller financing, for instance, right? Is not, hey, I'm going to buy your building, but you're going to carry the note for the next 5 years, and I'm going to pay you, 5% interest, and you're going to be happy with that. No, that's not what we're trying to do, right? What we're trying to do is, okay, well, when you get that money, I'm just curious, what are you going to do with it, right? I'm going to exchange it into another deal. I'm going to go finally pay off my beach house, and my wife and I are going to go to Myrtle Beach and hit golf balls for a living. Okay, well, how much do you need in order to make that happen? Okay, well, the building's for, hypothetically, the building's $1 million. And he's like, I need 250 grand. Okay. Would you finance the rest of it? Yes, I would. Okay, done. Let's do it. And, I'd love to tell you that it's, I'm playing 3-dimensional chess and I'm outthinking everybody in the room, and I'm not. I'm just solving a problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. And again, it's a numbers game. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. How many doors have you guys, do you guys have under management?
Just short of 150 at this point. And then we flipped probably another I don't know, 100, 110. No, that's probably not true. Probably 75 properties.
Wow, awesome. 75
Yeah.
properties?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, cool. Wow, you guys are
Like single
cranking,
family
man.
homes.
Single family homes. Oh,
Yeah.
now you guys are currently focused on apartment buildings,
Multifamily.
right? Okay.
Yeah. So I started off in the flipping business. I used
Ah,
flipping to basically create capital to go buy apartment buildings.
cool. Out of all the asset classes, like we're walking into 2024 soon, out of all the
Yeah.
asset classes, which one do you think might have the best resiliency of whatever might happen in the marketplace? What are you most excited about? What are you most scared about?
Um, so I am a fundamental believer in multifamily, class B, class C type multifamily. So, firmly planted in the middle class, middle class to working class folks. And the reason being is, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Shelter's a pretty big deal in a human being's life. And the fact that I can deliver a home that is well appointed, well cared for, clean and safe, at a really economically good price that's also good for us. I think that business does not have an end date, right? You look at like 2000, perfect example. You look at 2008 and the Great Recession, and that whole debacle, and literally the world economy is teetering on a 1,000-foot cliff. Multifamily, did the values come down? You bet. But did it crash like the residential housing market? Nope, did not.
Yeah.
It steady along in most markets, especially Class C and B. It basically stayed more or less within a range of being just fine. And did people get over their skis on financing and leveraging too much and all that? Absolutely. And that absolutely happened in the multifamily world. But if you had bought right in 2006, you still own that building in 2012 and you were thriving, right?
Yeah.
And so, that is, really important. Someone asked me a similar question a couple months ago. I was in like a Q&A session, and they said, how has your investing philosophy changed? I started in 2011 to 2000, today, 23. How has it changed? And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, it hasn't. We buy cash flowing properties that need work. We fix them. We make them beautiful. We make them clean and safe. We add value. We treat the residents with respect. So and we serve them so they stay a long time, and those buildings become really valuable. And at some point we sell it and trade up to a bigger one. That's the game, right? And I've done that since 2011.
Yeah.
The way we acquire, the way we dispose of properties, that has changed a little bit in that,
Sure.
back in the day, I was buying them mostly from brokers. These days I'm buying them mostly from some brokers, but also directly from property owners. And that'll change. That won't change. The thing I'm most concerned about is the fact that the multifamily business overall is way over leveraged, and there are people out there, companies, and we're starting to see it in the paper. If you watch the Wall Street Journal, you'll see one of these pop up a couple times a month, where a syndicator has bought a huge property. They had 3% debt on it, and now that their adjustable rate is running out, they're trying to refi it. And unfortunately, that rate is now 6, 7, 8%. And the building's no longer cash flow. And so they have a choice. They can turn to their investors and say, hey, we need $3 million to make this deal work. Or they hand the keys back to the bank and walk away. And that is both terrifying and gratifying. The gratification part is because, there's a whole bunch of people out there who are super conservative, and we'll be there to pick up the pieces and buy those buildings. But that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt everybody.
It's going to hurt.
And so, frankly, I've been waiting for it to happen for better part of 18 months now. And it still hasn't really come to fruition. I hope it doesn't. I hope they figure it out. But, Moody's had a presentation back in, I think, January of this year, where they said 23-ish% of the mortgages that were coming up for repricing in 24 and 25 couldn't be refied. So,
yeah. They're
brace
gonna
for
have to
impact.
consider pushing those times out or changing the terms on that. Otherwise, banks are gonna get a bunch of notes back, and I don't know if they're ready for that again.
I am seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of loan modification, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So as you're going through this, Ed, let's play a game. All right. So we're playing poker, and I want you to teach me, right? You're mentoring me and we're playing poker, and you're like, all right, Josh, here's one tip that you got to know about poker. Are we talking Texas Hold'em?
Sure.
Okay. All right, Josh, here's a tip. What's your tip on playing poker?
You got to know the math, and it's complex. You can read human beings, and that's part of it. But the real part of it is understanding the odds. When you see cards on the table, and you're, for all intents and purposes, you're card counting, but you're really not. But I'm dealing with the probability of, okay, I know that there is I'm holding 2 10s, and there's a 8 7 5 3 4 on the table. What are my odds that anybody else has a better hand? Frankly, percentage wise, odds are pretty good. So I'm dumping that hand. And most people would say, you had a high pair. No, I didn't. That guy has kings, right? And so that's where the human element of it is you're looking for the, once I understand the math and go, okay, my odds of winning this, I've got 3 people in the game, and my odds of winning this are less than 30%. I'm out, right? Because pretty good chance, unless I'm holding the nuts, right? Unless I'm holding something that's unbeatable, like a straight flush or something. Yeah. It comes down to math. And even that comes down to math. That's just 100%. But but that's, it's math first and then human being second. Right.
2-7 spread, best hand in the poker, right?
I've lost a lot of money on a 2-7.
Yeah. So as you're going through this, and there's someone in the audience who's looking to, maybe help, locate a deal with you, or buy a deal with you, or sell maybe an apartment complex, what's a good place for people to connect with you and do a deal?
So best place is to email me at ed@clarkst.com. You can get on our website at clarkst.com. We are Clark Street Capital on everything. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm also very active. I'm an old guy, so I was smart enough to sign on to all of these social medias. So I'm Ed Mathews pretty much everywhere. Nice. Or Ed Mathews 4, pretty much everywhere. And mainly because I joined Facebook when there were 37 people on it. So so those are probably the easiest ways. The other way to reach me is through our podcast, Real Estate Underground. And that is a new episode every Tuesday afternoon at noon Eastern. And we interview really smart, really successful real estate investors. And occasionally we bring in, folks from different asset classes just to kind of see what the market's like out there. And it's a lot of fun.
The Real Estate Underground, that's your podcast show. So everybody listening into this podcast show, if you like real estate and investing and learning some of these tactics that Ed's sharing, head on over and find Real Estate Underground podcast, download, subscribe, give a raving review, and share it with your buddies, right? Like that's, as Appreciate podcasters, that's such a great feeling when that happens. Ed, as we wrap up this interview, there's probably a question that you're like, Josh, it was right in front of you as another podcast to podcaster, and you didn't ask this. Where did I screw up, dude?
So, I asked almost the exact same question when I'm working with somebody. I'm like, what question should I have asked that I didn't ask? And I love watching their eyes roll, like my eyes are rolling right now. I think that the real estate business, there's so many different ways to benefit and get in. And, there are so many asset classes. There are so many ways to participate actively and passively. I could talk for days about the whole idea of being an active investor like me, somebody that actually physically manages a property, or a passive investor who does something else for a living, but wants to get into real estate, but doesn't want to be a landlord. there's pros and cons to all of it. And like I said, I can talk for days about that. And that was certainly something we could have talked about, but
yeah. And if they want that, they could head on over to your show and listen to more, right?
Right.
Cool. Ed, thanks for being on the show. People in the audience, deal makers, as always, reach out to our guests, say thanks. Like, tell them you guys were awesome on the podcast show, and find a way to connect with them and do a deal. That's the mission and purpose of the show. If you have a deal that you'd like to talk about here on the Deal Scout, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Bye, everyone.